justice happening to America's youth. The justice takes place as soon as they walk through the school doors, sometimes at the young age of the preschool level. This injustice I'm referring to is education inequality. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about education inequality, a large reason for the inequality in the education gaps, what lack of education gives rise to, and how teachers are involved. When looking at public schools in states such as New York, the differences between suburban school districts and the inner city, low-income school districts is outstanding. In 2002, the No Child Left Behind Act was signed into action. This was, according to the Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, supposed to close the achievement gap by providing all children with opportunity to a high-quality education. During this time, President George W. Bush argued that every single child, regardless of where they live, how they're raised, the income level of their family, every child received a first-class education. So what happened? There are many causes for the education inequality, but a large problem is the property tax difference in the districts. Most of the public schools are funded mostly by property tax in the districts. The more money that the property's worth, the more money that the public schools will get for things like after-school programs, lunch programs, maintenance on the buildings, sports programs, all these things, including computers and books that we see as necessities, students in the lower income school districts may not get to experience. Eduardo Porter wrote an article in the New York Times titled, "In Public Education, the Edge Still Goes to the Rich." He wrote that in 2011, the property value in the poorest 10% of New York school districts totaled $287,000 per student. But in the richest 10% of the New York school districts, the total was $1.9 million. He also said that Elmira, New York, an area that has double the nation's poverty and half the median family income, was only able to allocate $12,861 per student, compared to other schools like Bridgehampton and Amagansett in Long Island, who can allocate as much as $25,505 per student. This is annually, and as you can see, this is almost double, which obviously there's going to be huge gaps between what they can and cannot provide for their students. So what does this teach the students? The only thing that these students are learning is they're not worth as much as other students that live maybe just 15 minutes away. Once they believe that they are not worth as much as these other students, they're not going to try as hard. Why would they continue to get a fruitless education if they could be doing anything else? We wonder why the crime rate in low-income areas is so high, but we shouldn't. Berkeley Breen, a news correspondent for News 10 WBC Rochester, interviewed 2 inmates at the Monroe County Jail. DeAndre Dent and Carlos Serrano were both 17 years old. They both have a criminal record, and they're both high school dropouts. According to Ed Ignari, the director of rehab at the sheriff's office, said that most teens in the Monroe County Jail read and do math at a level 4 or 5 levels below where they should be. And in state prison, 25% of the inmates read at the level below the 8th grade level. In the same article, Dr. Bolgan Vargas, Rochester County School District Superintendent, said when we fail to educate our children, it has a tremendous impact on the individual, their family, and society. So who's to blame for this? When Breen asked the 2 inmates who they blamed for failing out of school, they both took responsibility. But Serrano also blamed his teachers for not really teaching him. Ill-prepared teachers are a large problem in lower-income school districts. We're constantly placing inexperienced teachers in schools that pay the least and require the most amount of work and experience. This, in turn, leads to more high school dropouts. Stats from the 2010 documentary Waiting for Superman says that 1 child drops out of school every 26 seconds. This, in turn, leads to 1.2 students dropping out of school annually. Porter interviewed Peter Appleby, an expert on education finance at the United Teachers Union. He pointed out that in 2012, only 18% of the students in the poorest 10% of New York districts scored above proficiency in math. But in the richest 10% of the New York school of the students scored above proficiency. Once the teachers feel that they cannot teach the students, they often give up. They put a book in front of them and they say, read this, learn this. That's also one thing that Deidre Dent and Carlos Serrano said that they complained about. Oftentimes, the teachers will pass the students with or without proficiency. This is known as social promotion, which is a large problem in failing school districts. And for any student, it's incredibly important for them to have a teacher or a guidance counselor or someone in the education department that pushes them to be something, to want something, and to do something with their life. But for a lot of students in the lower income districts, in the failing schools, these teachers and counselors don't exist. Yet, we still assume that these kids will magically develop a dignity and pride for their life. But in reality, their only hope to get a good education and possibly graduate high school may rest in the outcome of a random lottery draw. This is a clip from Waiting for Superman that I feel really sums up what I'm trying to say.
I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor.
How come?
Because I would like to help somebody in need.
You wake up every morning and you know that kids are getting a really crappy education right now.
So you think that most of the kids are getting a crappy education right now?
Oh, I don't think they are. I know they are.
Either the kids are getting stupider every year, or something is wrong in the education system.
I just try to do my best at school and make my time look like proud.
Among 30 developed countries, we rank 25th in math and 21st in science. In almost every category, we've fallen behind, except one. Kids from the USA rank #1 in confidence.
About 60,000 people have done this in 4 years. 40,000 didn't graduate. This is the damage that this school has done to this neighborhood.
A child that doesn't finish high school will earn less and be 8 times more likely to go to prison.
I want to go to school.
For these kids, their only chance at getting into a great school depends on whether their number is picked in the lottery.
So if Francisco doesn't get in, is there another chance?
No.
Your children and future generations are on the bridge of the Titanic and everybody's going to drown.
Someone has taken an interest in you, someone loves you, and they recognize the importance of education. And the first student selected, 20. 9. It takes a lot of outrage and a lot of good examples to say, yes, we can do this.
When you see a great teacher, you are seeing a work of art.
My kids are better than what I had.
18, 10, 12, 2, and the last number.
We as a nation should not make our children wait for Superman. As the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a united nation to educate a generation.